Acclimation is the key #1 thing you have to start out right. If you do that wrong, you run more risk of having not a healthy clam. You're stressing the clam out. Invertebrates are very, 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 very sensitive towards pH swings, right? Meaning that you want to keep the pH swings to a bare minimal. Now, as soon as I take that clam out of your pH and I put it in a bag, as soon as that clam goes out of that lighting, that photosynthetic lighting right there, the CO2 and all that is going to change. The chemistry is going to change. I put that in a bag, put it in a dark box, right? The pH is going to slowly drop. And so how we minimize that is we actually put as much oxygen in that bag as we can fill and as little water as possible, because you don't need a lot of water. It's not the water right there. They can, as long as they stay moist, they're fine. They really can be shipped with no water or very little water.
Hello everybody, welcome back. Happy reefing, and we are back with John from Clammania IG, and we have more insights from how to keep clams, how to keep them healthy. And now John told me that is one very important factor when we will have the clams. It's acclimatization, and he said that it's probably one of the most important factor. And for example, I just asked him that I have some problems with my clam that was eaten by some worms, and John told me that it's usually they are kind of safe from a parasite if they are in good shape and if they are well acclimated.
Acclimated.
Yes. So John, please tell us this secrets.
All right, guys, you can't share the secret to anybody, okay? No, it's actually very important. It's one of the most big discoveries that we've had over the years. And for me, acclimation is the key #1 thing you have to start out right. If you do that wrong, you run more risk of having not a healthy clam. You're stressing the clam out. Invertebrates are very, 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 very sensitive towards pH swings, right? Meaning that you want to keep the pH swings to a bare minimal. And we figured an equation of how to do that because, I mean, think about it. We do our shipments, a small shipment would be a couple thousand clams to us, like meaning that I have to ship it from us to us again, but I have to receive the clams.
From us? What is
meaning
it?
that we are providing our own clams that we ship to California.
From?
So let's say we ship from the islands, right?
From where?
Different parts. We're Marshall,
Okay.
French, Polynesia, you name it. We ship from everywhere around the world, but when we receive it, we have to make sure we have to go through an acclimation process. If we don't go through an acclimation process and we do like everybody else, there will be issues. So my point is, it's all about getting a healthy product, very healthy clam, but not just from me from the very beginning. They have to do it right. And then for me, I have to do it right. Whoever touches the clam has to do it right. The more you do it right, you take care of a baby, for example, you raise the baby, you make sure its health is strong, things like that. You don't let it get sick. You take care of it, it will be raised to a good adult. So you want to just make sure the handoff is soft, it knows what it's doing, and then you have a good product every single time. So acclimation for us is by far the most important thing. I highly always stress about it, make sure I do it right. We have thousands of clams at a time. You guys might get 1 or 2. So if to me 1 or 2 is very easy, we do thousands at a time. And how we do that is very simple. Because pH is like the #1 concern. The pH being #1 concern, we just raise the pH at a very subtle speed. And how we do that is what we do.
Because pH, when it's shipped, the pH in the bag, it's going down and down and down.
Yes.
So that's why when it's arrived to your place, the pH is just lower that it was packed to.
Yes.
So that's why you need to. Okay.
So for example, let's say the pH is packed any given place. Usually it's when you're packing. Your pH in your system, anytime past 12, usually your pH is rising, it's maybe peaking at 3 p.m. Your pH could be 8.4 pH, right? Now, as soon as I take that clam out of your pH and I put it in a bag, as soon as that clam goes out of that lighting, that photosynthetic lighting right there, the CO2 and all that is going to change. The chemistry is going to change. I put that in a bag, put it in a dark box, right? The pH is going to slowly drop. And so how we minimize that is we actually put as much oxygen in that bag as we can fill and as little water as possible, because you don't need a lot of water. It's not the water right there. They can, as long as they stay moist, they're fine. They really can be shipped with no water or very little water.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it's fine. If I have a little water and it's kind of wet, even it moves around, the water gets inside it good enough. I don't need it's not like fish, you put a lot of water, things like that. It's really just a lot of oxygen. I want my main focus is that pH being high as possible. I'll give it the best chance of giving as much oxygen. So no matter what the pH arrives, if your system's 8.4 and if the bag comes, let's say 7.4, I've seen it where people don't put oxygen, it's like a 5. Right? So it's more of a stressor. But don't worry, it can arrive at a 5. You're still okay, right? It's not that long of a period of being at a 5. The clam can tolerate it. So what you do is when you bring it back to your system, what you do is you either have a tray. Now, what we do is we have a tray, ideally, for the size of how many clams we have. So small or big tray, does not matter. It's just whatever water you have fits the tray. If you can have a small heater ready to go, if you can have a small pump, and also a line with aeration. Now this is like the perfect example. I'm giving you the best example possible. We can take some of those equipment away, but if you can have that, make sure the heater matches your temperature in your aquarium exactly to the T, so that way you don't need to temperature acclimate.
Yes.
It's already there. And you make sure you have a circulation for gas exchange, also for the heat exchange of that, and also when you're dripping, which is another part we're going to talk about pretty soon, that the water is mixed well. And I've done studies where I use just only the aeration from the air stone. It raises, initially in the 20 minutes, it raises the pH by 0.5. Pretty fast. And it raises the pH very fast compared to just air pump, right? Or pump circulation. So we have a combination, because we usually have a lot of clams. We have, again, heater, pump, air stone, circulating. And if we do that, now from there, we drip acclimate, right? So the drip acclimation is the key, the numbers you have to remember. It's for every 0.1 pH, 0.1 pH is 20 minutes. Meaning
from 5 to, let's say, 8. It'll be like 12 multiplied by 20. It will take time. But I understand that
right?
you have this clam for years and years. So to just put this effort at the beginning, that will guarantee that you will have it healthy for a longer time.
Yeah. Why shock it? People always say, "Oh, I did it for half an hour. I didn't." But because if you're not doing the math, that's why I ask people, if you have a pH probe, that'd be great. And if you have a pH probe that has to the hundreds, 0.0, so 8.01, 8.02, whatever it is. That way I can gauge it up. Otherwise, you can go, it's hard to, how do you get 0.1? It's hard to gauge that, right? If the probe doesn't read that. So ideally, that's how we do it. We want to make sure that wherever it's at, if it comes, like you said, if it comes in at a 5, guess what? I'm going to sit there a little longer, right? And I have to be okay with that. Another thing you can do if you have a sump, which we do, most people have sumps these days. It's very simple. You just put a tray in your sump. Maybe put something to raise the tray out of the water, so it's not falling over. You put the clam in that tray. You put the water of whether clam that it came in that right there. Put the air stone. Do the same thing with the pump. But because the tray is in the water, temperature acclimates right there.
Yes, it's easier, yes.
And if you drip acclimate, you don't care if it overflows. You can walk away for a whole day. You don't care really. It doesn't matter. Yes. It's going to overflow into the sump, right? From your upper system to below. So that's another way of doing it right there. But the most important thing is that 0.1 for every 20 minutes. So also remember, as the water rises, you need to take water out. Otherwise, as you're dripping, it doesn't make any impact. It becomes very diluted. So if the water level's here and the water rises here, I always take water out to bring it back to the same thing. Basically, I just bring it down to maybe a little over where the clam mantle is at and let it go again. Because I want each drop to make an effect, right? So if you do that, you realize, and also I've seen, once you get the pH to, let's say, 7.8, it takes a high volume of water from 7.8 to 8.4. Then you got to crank up a little more, but keep that pace of 0.1 for every 20 minutes.
Now, it's also in the same time when you will take water out of your system,
Yeah.
you should be aware that your overflow, not overflow, but your top off will add a raw water.
Yeah.
So please remember to add some, let's say, fresh prepared water on exceed a little bit to not to prevent dilute the water in the tank.
Yes, or turn off the overflow auto top off or something.
Turn
like
off
that.
and add it just the freshly prepared
salt.
prepared salt water or something like that.
Yeah.
Because I saw that as well.
Yeah.
You know, just people just make a acclimatization, but they just add so much fresh water that the salinity drops, and there was another story.
Yeah, and the chemistry changes and everything, very dramatic. Yeah, that happens. And for us, our water is really good. It's really clean, and at the same time, the bag, the clam will also release zooxanthellae in the bag. So sometimes if you use your water and dump it in the system, it's not a bad thing. You're dumping, if you see little black things in the water floating, you put it in a microscope, that's zooxanthellae. And that we talked about, I think, in episode 2 or 1. But if you didn't catch that, catch it. But you can dump that into the water, and the zooxanthellae will go in there too.
From your place, it's safe to use. But I saw some stores that have the same in the same circuits, the same they have a fish, sometimes not healthy fish. I would not recommend from unknown sources to add the water to your tank. It's better to not really add it.
True.
But for you, I know that you don't have any illness, and your system is very healthy. But generally, be aware of that as well.
Very true. Very true point. For us, we run basically just clams, so I know what's in our system. I don't change too much variables inside, so I know exactly what's going to be affecting the clams.
Yeah. So this is the end of the acclimatization. So we have everything there.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's really just that. Is once you almost there. Once you get the of course temperature, salinity to help hopefully match exactly the parameters when you can go that long as far as all the trace elements. You want the salinity, the trace elements to be as close as possible. Of course, when you're when you're acclimating, you want everything to be the same. And as long as you follow that pH guide of 0.1 for every 20 minutes, and make sure towards the end to really crank up the drops. So here's a good rule of thumb would be, like, say 2 drops per second for the first half an hour. After that, you can speed it up to double that to 4 drops. And after that, you can double that to 6 drops because you're going to have to, just to get that pH over 7, 8 to wherever you're at. Another funny thing about this is that you have to realize when we ship our clams, even though we might put on our water 8.4, by the time it gets to 7.4 on average is what I'm seeing from us with putting all the oxygen in. Don't forget, by the time you get your package, what is your pH at? You get it at 12 p.m., 1 p.m., 2 p.m., your pH is at where? 8.2, 8.4?
Change in your tank as well.
Big difference. And then as you're acclimating, your pH could be rising. But at the same time, if you get a package late, it might be an easier time to acclimate because your pH is actually lower about the time. So that's another funny thing that I've noticed, or interesting fact that I tell customers. Don't forget where your pH is at the time when you receive the bag. Or if you receive the bag late, your pH or your light's off, maybe a better thing. I wouldn't say don't wait, but I'm saying just realize these are the facts.
That seems to be complicated, but it's a base, and you should do it anyway if you want to have a friend for years. And how long they live in the tanks? How long they live in the tanks? The clams. What's the oldest one that you saw? In the tanks?
Well, we have proof of pudding for us because we don't sell all our clams. A lot of my clams, I just let it grow to breeding size or let it grow just because we want to prove that how our systems can maintain, how what if we maintain this par for this amount of years and this chemistry, do they truly live this long? Now in the wild, you look 50 to 100 years, things like that. For me, our oldest clam I think is 10, 12 years since we started in 2011. We kept whatever we kept. The rest we sold off, but we have a lot of clams still sitting there. So sometimes when we do live sales or we're selling our clams or shipping to our clients, a lot of the clams have been in our system with us. Our system, 3 years, more. So they live a long time. Like any coral, maintain chemistry. You're golden.
But just this effort at the beginning, it's worth to keep the coral for 10, 12, 15 years. We have a friend who. From Germany, Sebastian, who has a huge. I showed you yesterday huge clams. I remember he has it for 5 years, but it's huge, right? Probably something like this. And it's a show. It's a showpiece. And it's a main eye catcher in your tank. So it could be really, really amazing. So when you will keep them on the right way, you will be super happy, and everybody who will visit your tank will just look and it will be amazed as well. And John, tell me, about what is the funny story with the for years of experience on the
my
tank.
God,
So what
yeah.
happened that you can just show with our friends here?
Oh, to me, it's a funny story, but to me, it happens sometimes. I think a couple times already, and it's a funny story for me because to me, I have no fear when it happens.
Yes.
People, I tell them, they're like, "What? What are you talking about? This happens?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Well, as you know, in the wild, giant clams can be out of the water for a long period of time. For example, I was at the Red Sea December, January of this last 2021, as of 2022, 21, 22. And I was watching all the Red Sea clams out of the water. And at that time I was there, it was like their cold season, I guess, whatever it was. So there was a lot of rain. It wasn't the best vacation, the best time to go there. But we went anyways. And it was raining and the clams are out of the water, freshwater rain. I'm watching, okay, let me measure the temperature. Oh, 65. I'm like, very cold, right? Okay. And it's raining on the clams, and you're like, okay, fresh water dip right here. This is definitely a quick.
And especially when you have a salinity in Red Sea, 44, 43.
Yeah.
So it's the PPT. So it's the difference is even bigger.
More dramatic.
Yes.
More dramatic change.
Yes, exactly.
So, but these clams are in the Red Sea. Are one of the original clams on the planet, as far as the oldest clam we have found so far are from the Red Sea, a billion years old. They have clams there, shells 100,000 years old. We can measure how old it is because every day they grow one little groove. Clams grow one little groove every day.
Tree, kind of.
It's like a tree, but a day, not a year, a day. Okay. They are growing so fast. So the funny story is this, knowing that fact, the funny story is in our warehouse, when we had the older warehouse, is a lot colder at night. Yes. The tank temperature is perfect, but the room gets really cold. Yes. We have thousands of clams, and if they're smaller clams, sometimes you're acclimating, maybe one drops, and I mean it's one or two drops here and there, and it could be 24 hours later. So usually it's longer than 24 hours. I come back and I look under the table. Oh, there's a cute little clam. He's all closed up, dry as a bone, because he's been there for 24 hours, and in the cold. I know at nighttime it was winter time, so I know in winter in California at night it gets pretty cold in the warehouse. So 50-something degrees. And more than 24 hours goes, and I'm like, oh, that's cute. I'm like, I'll pick it up, I put it in the water. I'm like, yeah. Then I went to get my coffee, came back, wide open.
Wow.
Yeah. So I know out of the water.
Hibernate, kind of.
Yeah, well, they close, they say they hold all the water there. They're fine. So what that tells me, it's not being out of the water that kills clams, it's the chemistry. If I put it in the water, it's not good, and they close up. The chemistry made it close up. It wasn't the being in the cold or being bone dry as far as outside shell. It was the chemistry that will mess it up, or the chemistry will say, hey, I'm good still, open up, come back in. And also that when you're out of the water, the pH doesn't change that much.
Okay. So how long
it's ambient
they
pH.
could be transported? Because many people just afraid, like, oh, I will ship the coral, and after they will be stuck somewhere, and they will die, and they'll be an unpleasant situation, usually with the people that sell. So how long they are more resilient than, let's say, SPS or something other?
Yeah, well, that's part of the funny story too, and I feel bad. That's another funny story with that. To answer that question is actually, for me, we've actually Aaron, who's on this channel.
Our Aaron.
You're Aaron.
Yeah, okay.
You're Aaron. You're Aaron.
Hello,
Aaron, you can vouch for this story.
Yes.
Aaron, I'm not going to say where he lives, but he lives about an hour away from us.
Yes.
And he's a busy man. He's a busy man. He's got a family, things like that, and he just has time to drive an hour to pick up the clam, things like that. And it was like, hey, Aaron, don't worry, we'll ship it to you. So we shipped it, Aaron, and he wanted to arrive on Friday. I said, okay, we'll ship it on Thursday, arrive on Friday. Well, I'm not going to say what package or what company it was, but it got lost or whatever it was, whatever they told us. And it was basically, I packaged on Thursday, shipped it. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. He had to work Monday, so the package sat there. His wife, didn't know how to acclimate, which is okay. He got there, I think he finally reached me at like 6, 7 p.m. Monday. So you're like, what, 5 days? 5 days in the bag. And I said, Aaron, just let me know how it is. I'll take care of either way, whatever it is. His first time a customer, but I said, don't worry. I'm pretty sure that it'll be okay. And he goes, are you sure? I said, yeah, I'm pretty sure, because I know my clams, I know how the packaging and the shipping goes. He opens a box, puts it down, he goes, John, it's wide open. I said, yeah, the water is still good, it's good chemistry. As long as the chemistry is good, they're happy. The pH is, I'm sure, a lot lower, and I think we have videos. I have videos of him putting the pH, he has Aaron has so much equipment.
Yeah,
he's equipment king.
Yes.
And he has the best equipment, everything in there.
Yes,
He's got, look at this probe, I got this, I got a monitor this big. I said, oh my God, this guy is like tech genius. So
he's biologist as well.
He knows what he's doing. So anyways, long story short,
Marine biologist,
even more. So the long story short is that even the 5 days has passed, his pH was very low. It was to open the bag. And that's all. And from there, if acclimation's good, it's healthy. So, yeah. So that's a story. Yeah.
So they are fragile, but in the same they're very resistant.
Yeah.
And so just follow the rules.
Yeah.
And everything will be fine.
Yeah. Acclimation and water chemistry, good flow, good lighting, you're good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I think that we will finish this episode about the clams. It was great to talk to you, John.
Thank you very much.
So much interesting information. So if you have any questions, just ask below this video, and John probably will be happy to answer. We will be happy to answer as well. And stay tuned for more video. Thank you so much. Thank you, John.
Thank you very much. Take care, guys.